everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of And So It Flows. Today we are talking bath and kitchen trends. We're just going to have a quick conversation about popular fixtures, shapes, designs, colors, and textures, and then a little bit of technology as well that's happening in the bath and kitchen space. So I have the pleasure today of speaking with Jessie Birchfield, Director of Industrial Design at Moen, and Dean Camastro, Northeast Regional Sales Manager with Duravit. So I really appreciate you both joining me today.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
Awesome. So let's start with some colors. What colors are you guys seeing in both residential and commercial design when it comes to bath and kitchen today?
Sure.
Ladies first, Jessie.
Oh, thank you. So overall, I think everything's getting warmer and more textural and more inviting. I think, a big reason is, coming out of the pandemic, it's a lot of uncertainty and feeling this increase of attention on the home as a sanctuary. So things that make you feel comforted and maybe a little sense of nostalgia are really, trending, specifically for faucet finishes, chrome and, stainless brushed nickel, those are always, kind of the staple finishes, but we've seen such an increase in demand on, matte black and other warm finishes like brushed gold to add that, sense of nostalgia or warmth and a little bit more personal, attention on personal expression in the home. And even getting into more like bronzed golds that have a little bit more desaturated and a little bit more of a moody sort of feel. So yeah, we're really excited to, start to see more natural color palettes kind of entering the home to provide that comfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd have to agree wholeheartedly with Jessie. We're seeing on the furniture and fixture side a real influx or influence of the outside coming in, right? The pandemic, we were all outside. We enjoyed the outside, became a very big part of our lives. So we're seeing that trend kind of come back now that things are, in a sense, getting back to normal. We're seeing a lot of natural wood tones, both light and dark, a mix of materials as well. You'll have glass front with a wood top, and then you'll have a ceramic basin, and even a ceramic basin in a multitude of color, where we're starting to see that color trend pop back up. If anybody was at KBIS this year, you saw a lot of color on the ceramic side. So it's interesting, again, to see how, we deal with something for a couple of years, and it really begins to affect the overall design culture and how we see the space. And as Jessie mentioned as well, it's just, a sense of retreat. We're seeing a lot of those words and acronyms be used in design. So you're creating this overall space of having a lot of this natural material and bringing the outside in, and then a mix of materials of glass, natural woods, but definitely a lot of wood tones, warm tones mixed with your solid colors as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at KBIS, walking the floor, I saw a lot of mixed metals and mixed finishes, and I love that. My parents are redoing their kitchen right now, and my mom's asking for advice, and she's like, wait, we can mix? She's like, everything used to have to match. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. And you can do pops of color, and you can do 3 different metals if you want, and it's really cool to see that.
Sure. And you're seeing that across all bases, especially again on the furniture side, the cabinet side. You're seeing companies like Benjamin Moore and Sherman-Williams, where cabinets years ago, kitchen cabinets in particular, as you brought it up, Natalie, used to be, we saw a lot of the whites, right? The white inset shaker door, it ruled, the roofs for some time. But now today, as you begin to see these design trends and people really exploring color, I think you're seeing much more pops of color brought into, both the kitchen and bath space. And what I kind of see it as people kind of taking a chance. I think also too, the trend seems to be where, someone who was designing their kitchen, the kitchen was designed in a manner where they wanted it to last 20 or 30 years. I think today's client, it's going to be a little bit shorter of a renovation cycle. I think we'll begin to see those numbers come down, because I think today's clientele wants clean finishes and really wants to be on trend, where something might not work 5-10 years down the road. They'll be more apt to actually do that renovation again, rather than saying, hey, I need to build something that fits, kind of generational. I'm going to have it 20 to 30 years. So I think that also begins to influence the overall color schemes in what we see in kitchen and bath.
I totally agree. And I've even heard interior designers kind of speak to that mixed finish and mixed style and eclectic style strategy as being a great way to like not have to think about these like 10 or 20 year spans of time where you completely gut it and completely remodel, but instead it's this organic evolution of your personal taste where you don't have to go all in on just one finish at a time. So you can have that flexibility to bring in, you know, a matte black element just for, you know, 5 years and then kind of move, you know, across into some new finish that might be, you know, it still opens the door for something new that might be trending in you know 3-5 years, you know, but you don't have to gut the whole kitchen to like go in on it. So it also, yeah, it just speaks to like your personal taste, or you might have traveled to a new city and you want to bring a little bit of that influence in, but you know, you don't want to totally change, you know, everything. So it just speaks to how we live today and how, you know, people don't define themselves, you know, in one way. Like we have so many more facets to ourselves and people want to express all of that at once.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So similar question, talking more on shapes, angles, lines. What are we seeing there?
Yeah.
Jessie, again, of course, I'll always defer to ladies first.
Thanks. So yeah, along, you know, with the same, you know, overarching theme that we talked about with colors, I think just getting softer, more inviting. You know, there's definitely a move towards, you know, minimalism across the board, but we're seeing more so like warm minimalism where, you know, there's less ornamentation, but softer palettes and softer materials, or like an interesting texture, even though it's, you know, a very minimalist form in general. And so I, you know, when I see that across the board, even from, you know, the very minimalist people that are like very Mies van der Rohe, less is more, you know, but, you know, but also on the side of, you know, traditional design even is getting more minimal, where, you know, we have this style that we call tailored traditional, that it's kind of moving away from more of that, like, you know, cozy farmhouse style, and it's a little bit more crisp, and like the details are much more refined and thoughtful and organized across the entire design, and it just creates this really clean, calm feeling for your mind to like comprehend this, you know, there's not a lot of chaotic ornament everywhere, you know. So we're seeing even, you know, across that wide style spectrum, just a movement towards more thoughtful and organized design and intentional materials and finishes.
Yeah, again, it hit the nail on the head, Jessie. We see the same thing, you know, from bathroom furniture and fixtures. We're seeing a lot of organic shapes come into play. You know, mirrors with very organic shapes. So, you know, shapely, and again, in a non-chaotic way, where you'll have a mix of, you know, hard-edged rectangle vanity with a very soft-edged mirror, and then maybe you'll bring in some lighting, that accent lighting that has a slight subtle shape to it as well. And it's like coordinating chaos is kind of how I call it. There's sometimes, you know, you look at a space, and again, I've had the privilege of working with so many interior designers these past few decades, that I would have never thought that, but it totally works, right? There's all these different shapes and organic feels, and it's a sense of calming. We hear that a lot. We hear talk about, of, you know, especially again in the bathroom space, where, you know, you start your day, you're ending your day, and it's very important how your day goes, how you start and end it, right? It's this very sense of calmness at the end of the day, you know, where you want to ramp up, start your day. So the effects that shapes have overall in color palettes and textures, right? You know, today tile, I mean, that's one category that I've seen some beautiful, beautiful organic tile that's created today, that you could just use just an accent wall within a bathroom space, or, you know, how it affects the overall look of the kitchen, whether it be floor or backsplash. So, you know, all of that goes into this, again, as you said, Jessie, this very minimalistic style with a lot of creative shape. You know, it's almost, you know, where I don't want to say we're stepping away from modern farmhouse, because I still hear that a lot. But nonetheless, I think that European influx, we're starting to see more that transitional to modern. You don't see so much of this heavy traditional design. I mean, there is still quite a bit of it if you think about the United States as a broad spectrum, you know, from the Midwest. But, you know, I've been part of projects, especially from a hospitality standpoint, multi-unit residential, where you're in the middle of America, and the incredible transitional design to cement floors and wall hung vanities, wall hung toilets in an area where 5 to 10 years ago it was unheard of. So you could see that trend starting to move towards that. And again, as Jessie had mentioned, shape, style, it's all this comforting factor, and it's geared towards the individual person. And I think that happens too, that, you know, our homes reflect our personality. And I think they design it in such a manner where they could kind of change along with it. So the cycles will be better for manufacturers as well, right? People aren't keeping bathrooms and kitchens for 20, 30 years. They'll knock it down to 15. So it helps the renovation cycle, and it really helps the end user, you know, create a space that's conducive to them, you know, at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you bring up farmhouse. We bought our house in 2018, and maybe around the peak of farmhouse decor and design. And so I still have a lot of that, but my taste is changing, and I see all these other things. So now it's kind of like, how do we keep some of that and transition it into a more modern or even traditional in some senses? So I definitely think that's a trend for us millennial home buyers.
For sure. Just keeping it, you know, I think elements of that are still definitely, like, especially if that speaks to you personally, like it doesn't matter if it's a trend or not. If it resonates with you, you know, you should go for it. But then mixing in some other like newer elements, I think that's the way to keep any style fresh.
Absolutely. So we know a lot of the time trends happen in Europe and overseas, and then the US kind of catches on several years later. So are you guys seeing any trends, emerging trends that maybe haven't quite taken off here yet, but will in the coming years?
Jessie, again, of course. Start off.
Thank you.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, we touched on that larger idea of kind of wellness and well-being in the home and sanctuary, and really that's kind of at the top of like all of the trends that our team tracks. And so we kind of, you know, organize the trends that we, you know, harvest across European trade shows. And, you know, we go to Milan Design Week and Stockholm Design Week and, you know, Paris Maison Objet, like all of those things. And we try to have like a consistent framework to track, you know, those mega trends. So we've kind of whittled that down to, you know, 3 key you know, mega trends right now. So first, personal expression, and then biophilic design, you know, which Dean mentioned, you know, being really inspired by nature, and that idea of biophilia, that innate human desire to commune with nature. So designing in a way that encourages those interactions and brings the outdoors in, and you know, that focus on natural materials. But then also just impactful design, thinking about, you know, how our design decisions impact, you know, our family and our community, but also the larger environment as a whole. So, you know, sustainability goals and, you know, more innovative use of recycled materials, you know, is definitely a huge theme, you know, of importance that, you know, we're starting to see on the rise in the US as well. But then, yeah, just to go back to personal expression, you know, at the European shows, we're really excited to see kind of a movement more towards funky retro styles. And kind of, I think it plays to that sense of comfort from the perspective of like nostalgia and playfulness and just lightheartedness after like such a heavy, you know, few years we've been all endured across the globe. So like the fun colors are kind of coming from that, and like the blobbier proportions and just kind of being a little less like serious. And, you know, like, so again, like that, you know, the idea of like minimalism kind of evolving where, you know, it's kind of like less is more, but now only if the less is more. So like you have a few elements in the space, but they're, you know, they're more interesting, or the proportions are even more thoughtful, or like it's a more unique material that minimal form is in, you know, and so those two ideas play together a lot, I'm seeing, and, you know, just that idea of eclectic style. But then, yeah, we talked about biophilic design and then impactful design as well. And they all really like come together to create, you know, a kind of a new definition for wellness, where it kind of goes beyond, you know, physical health, you know, and we, you know, we're still seeing touchless technologies and that sort of thing. But above and beyond that, I feel like, you know, we kind of, it's like physical health and then mental health was down here, and then the pandemic, just like you just keep seeing it And it's
Yeah.
like almost more important than physical health now, like what design can do for your mental well-being and supporting, the relationships in your home and everything through the functionality from that perspective, I think is super exciting as a designer, where in the past it used to feel a little bit superficial or something to care about aesthetics and and now there's just such a deeper important need to use design to keep us all mentally healthy and create beautiful experiences with our family members. So I personally love the deepening of where design is going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, hit the nail on the head, Jessie. We, as a European manufacturer, had recently finished up Ish Fair, where we were launching tons and tons of pops of color. It'll take some time for it to come here. What I see trend-wise, and I've represented European manufacturers for over the past 2 decades, it always takes about a good 5 years, right? Some of it having to do with code approvals between the United States and European countries. But stylistically, yes, I think it's much more geared towards the overall well-being, right? We hear that a lot. People want to have this experience, a sense of calmness in the space. It's very tactile. So with that, they're bringing in a lot of different finishes, as we mentioned earlier in the conversation, as well as personalization. And then I call it digitalization. We're going to see a heavy influx of technology brought into products that are out there today and then in the future. And lastly, as Jessie had mentioned, the effect or the overall power of sustainability. I think it's on the forefront of everybody's mind, coming out of a pandemic and plus all the issues that we see around the world, from, fossil fuel, to water scarcity, everything to that nature. It really begins to elevate it. And as a manufacturer, our goal is to be one of the world's first fully net zero carbon manufacturers in ceramic products. So it really, really begins to elevate the thoughts on sustainability, creating sustainable products. And we also find too, Jessie, I don't know on your category as well, but we're finding clients, their expectation is such, they want to utilize or have sustainable product in their homes. And we're even dealing with certain development companies who do these massive multi-unit projects, that their concern is not only the responsibility of how we create the product from a sustainability standpoint, but also to how we really manufacture and how our employees are treated. So, you're getting companies really beginning to elevate their level of this overall, not only sustainability, but responsibility to both product and people. And I think that begins to really affect overall, how products are made, how they're designed, and then how they personalize them. So, I think we're going to see a real big influx, even though we already have. One of the things that has amazed me is how COVID really created this, I don't want to say new category, but who would have thought we'd have, sensor metered faucets in our homes that we personally use? We're so used to it being an institutionalized product that we saw more in the commercial space. And here it is. And manufacturers, I take their hats off to them. They've done some incredible jobs. I've seen some very beautiful sensor faucets or even sensor toilets, things that are totally driven through technology that, it's just how we live today. And a lot of it was, a byproduct of, the past couple of years.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. That idea of impact stemming outside of just, the end user, but also the idea of circular design and, repurposing materials and just how you think about, the entire infrastructure. So at Moen, we're really proud of our Mission Moen goals. The first one to save at least 1 trillion gallons of water by the year 2030 through, a lot of that smart water network innovation, but also water conservation technologies, in our shower heads that aren't even connected, that goes a long way. And then also on the material side, repurposing 2,000 tons of ocean plastic by the year 2030 as well. So we're working with suppliers to figure out how to integrate that material in more places. So first we launched it on single-use plastics, like the plaster guard, while during the installation process that just protects the valve as you're tiling the shower surround. And that was a easy place to incorporate this material. And then we were starting to build it into the actual components where appropriate for, our magnetics shower collection actually has it in the docking feature. And so our design team is really passionate about like asking, every new project, we're like, is that a place where we can use this material? Is that a place, so we're like
Sure.
actively trying to find more uses for it and explore other options for more responsible materials. And in addition to the actual end user experience of water conservation through our innovations as well. So I'm really proud that we're starting to move that direction and hopefully, just continue that momentum as an industry wide across, all brands are making that movement, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Walking through KBIS and other trade shows as well, it's sustainability and efficiency are really non-negotiables at this point, and it's being implemented in every type of product, and that's awesome to see. And you guys perfectly transitioned to a couple of my next questions, but I'll ask more on the functionality, feature, and technology side. What are the most important things when it comes to installers and designers, and then when it comes to end users that you're finding right now?
Jessie?
Okay, so the kitchen and bath are two very different spaces is what I've learned, the very different functionality. The kitchen is like the heart of the home. It's kind of almost a public space, especially when you're entertaining and like open concepts, design, it's there's so many more users in the space, and there's such different activities and different, priorities there, from like food prep to cleanup to bathing a baby in the kitchen sink, perhaps, so there's such a wider range where the focus is really on like functionality and efficiency and time saving. And then on the flip side, like the bathroom is a very intimate place, and we're talking about the home as your sanctuary, but it's kind of like the sanctuary of the sanctuary, So the needs are a little different there, where it's a private space, and it's, people may have multiple bathrooms in their home. So you might go in on, different functionality based on the user that's in that space, but you might not have multiple kitchens. So the kitchen faucet, selection needs to meet the needs of everyone all at once. But then the bathroom, there's kind of a higher priority on personal expression and like the style selection of the fixture at the sink. But then in the shower, that's like where functionality really comes into play big time, depending on the user demographic. If it's, if you're designing for, the aging in place, you're trying to think about, zero entry shower enclosures and, slide bars and beautiful grab bars that match and form and finish to the rest of your space to create that calm and that peace, it's functional, but also, aesthetic. The aesthetic cohesive strategy can help, create that calm also, and that feeling of safety. But then also, across the board, I think the big theme that I hear when we do style testing, especially, is cleanability. And especially after the pandemic, like we've been, wiping down our commonly touched, touch points like so much. And, it's a little less like top of mind now as we're like getting out of it. But a lot of the, that mentality has just stuck, where every time that we test new styles, designers are pointing out like, well, that concept's going to be easier to clean than that one, and it's like, that is part of their style decision. And so we really make sure to offer very easy to clean, fluid forms. But then, depending on the user need, they may be prioritizing a style detail over cleanability. So we offer, that range, of course, but especially in the kitchen too, the touchless technologies help big time with, keeping your faucet clean and, being able to, above and beyond, just, that's kind of where the touchless technology came from originally. But then moving into the smart water network, we found all these other functions for touchless and connected functionality in the kitchen to be able to ask your faucet for, specific measurement of water and a specific temperature at the same time. And then, you can just use the sensor to swipe and have it dispense. And being able to connect all of that to a larger smart water network that's going to give you that, whole home water monitoring functionality. It's incredible, like what we're able to do now. But yeah, overall, I would say definitely the bath, the function priority is on that, intimate, safety and sanctuary feeling. And then kitchen is definitely more on the, high efficiency and multitasking and things that are just going to help your flow through those very different activities.
Again, Jessie, well said. A lot of what we're seeing too, right, from a trend perspective, if we're talking about kitchen and bath here, I agree. I think the kitchen is a space that's really about efficiency. You're seeing from a point of technology, a lot of the interiors of cabinets today are just not of the cabinets we were used to, right? When I first got into this industry, I show my age, some 30 years ago, a rollout, cabinet was like the thing that to have, where you'd have this technology where you'd have your mixer would come up on a platform from inside the cabinetry, where, today you're seeing an infiltration of LED lighting. We're seeing an infiltration of even sensor, where you could put your foot out and the drawers will automatically come out based on that technology. You're seeing that also really go into the surfacing space. I've been at some presentations where today, people are installing their cooktops inside the stone, where it just looks like a solid piece of stone, but yet it's able to cook. You have your induction, your smart technology. If there's any one category in the kitchen and bath that has really taken on a role of technology, it's appliances. The amount of smart technology that's built into them today is just quite incredible. And a lot of it having to do with efficiency, like how quickly something can be cooked, prep time, everything to that. It amazes me on the faucet side. I was in that space for a number of years with a manufacturer, and I remember seeing the initial testing of these voice activated kitchen mixers, where you're telling it, pour me a cup of water. At first, to me, I was like, well, that's a little weird. I could just grab the handle and measure a cup of water. But today, Amazon Alexa, all these different smart technologies, Moen home water sensors, which I actually have in my house. So it's that nice feeling. I don't have to worry about being on vacation and flooding my house, because the system will tell me. So nonetheless, we're seeing that, right? So it's technology, efficiency, cleanability for sure. Again, another category where we saw appliances, right? Those no touch, matte finish cabinet or appliances that are out there today. I was just in a showroom. I saw white, I saw a matte black, I saw a gray color, and it's all touchless, non-fingerprint. So again, efficiency, technology built in, easy to clean, always seems to be top of mind. But lighting is always a very big factor when it comes to an overall space. And that's really infiltrating on both sides. I've had the ability, again, to work with a number of incredible people. And it's interesting to see that today they're testing, smart home technology, overall home integration, where they're saying in the short-term future, and I'm sure it'll be expensive when it first comes out, your home is actually going to change color based on the time of day. So the lighting in your entire home will react to the position of the sun, changing the kelvins from a warm to a blue, depending on night and day. So if you think about that overall and how it begins to just affect the design of a home, right? So all these smart tie-ins, the bathroom space, as Jessie had mentioned as well, a lot of it's about hygiene. We're manufacturing products with antibacterial glazing that kills 98% of the bacteria that grows on and inside of 24 hours. We're manufacturing our furniture on a molecular level. I never thought, you talk about being nanotechnology to create ceramics pieces or having totally fully waterproof vanities, and having that put into a space that just offers that additional level of efficiency, sustainability in manufacturing, and just that overall comfort that, this person that they've designed the space to be achieve this overall goal of both cleanliness, design. I mean, it's a lot to incorporate, and technology is really what's helped us get there. So when you think about designs and shapes, especially on the ceramic side. We create products today with small 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter rounded edges in a ceramic piece that was just unheard of just 10 years ago. And that's all through technology and innovation on the side of manufacturing, but it's also brought that extra level of ability for someone to design within a means to be that soft edge, that very tactile. So, technology is here to stay. I think it's just going to continue to grow. I mean, today we could walk in and talk to our mirrors. We have heated floors through technology, through manufacturers that are 1/10 the cost they were just 10 years ago. So it really, the industry has really given someone the ability to create such a space at a very cost-effective manner. And a lot of that has to do all through technology and the infiltration of technology in both manufacturing and overall product design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. On the note of technology, it seems like each year when I visit KBIS, I see something that it's kind of like, it just amazes me. And I'm like, why? It's either like, oh, why didn't I never think of this before? Or
Sure.
like, what will they think of next type moment.
Mhm.
So, and it's funny you bring up the lighting thing, because that was kind of my moment this year at KBIS. Was a refrigeration manufacturer that has refrigerators with their produce drawers that change light throughout the day to keep the produce
Mhm.
fresh for much longer. And I was just, amazed by that. And so it leaves you thinking, what will they come up with next? So my last question for you both is, what's that next big thing that you think, big picture wise, is going to take us by storm?
Okay. Yeah. So I think, Dean covered, that the movement of technology to be more human centered. I think some people call that type of lighting human centered lighting, that helps regulate your circadian rhythm. And I think that's all kind of part of that larger movement of smart technology where, at the beginning, it kind of felt a little gimmicky or frivolous, and people weren't really sure like how to really make it resonate. And now, like over time, it's grown to, we've all found ways to truly make a positive impact on our families and our homes to protect, our, loved ones and our resources. And so, like for Moen, our smart water network, we really focus on, 4 key benefits: personalization through those customizable presets like voice commands to dispense specific temperature and measurements in the shower as well, being able to start your shower, through your phone, at the exact temperature and let it warm up and pause to save water until you're ready to get in, like those features are incredible. And then also protection through, features like leak detection and flood prevention, that Dean was citing that he has in his own home. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then precision through that ability to, be able to ask for very specific measurements down to a tablespoon, but also being able to pair, and the connectivity, with various different voice assistants that you already have in your home. And we're seeing people really use their voice assistants as kind of that hub to kind of control everything from one place instead of having to go to a million different apps to like access everything. So just like that ease, and really making it easier to live with. And then lastly, of course, preservation, which, we've talked about, whole home water monitoring and being able to, kind of set goals for yourself. That's a huge component of, beyond just like that individual one-on-one experience with the product. You now can tell like a larger story over time and be able to be really responsible with, the little bit of resources that you're, in charge of in your own home. But then I think overall, there's, that human-centered lighting is all kind of part of this idea that we're seeing growing of calm technology, where, technology should help create calm and make your life better, not more complicated and chaotic. And so, technology, there's like a list of principles, if you look it up, that like help, achieve that. But, kind of the main one that resonates with me is like, that technology should give the user just what they need to solve the problem and nothing more. And so being really diligent about, doing the proper user research to understand exactly what that problem is, and not trying to go off and add all these different features that are just kind of gimmicky. I think when you speak to those, like for our smart water network, being able to really come back to those 4 key benefits, like, does this really help, with precision? Does this really help, feel protected? And, going back to that, kind of larger idea of like wellness in the home and well-being and sanctuary, but, that lighting, even beyond temperature, we're seeing, softer tones and like more diffused lighting applications, or integrated and, in hidden ways where, the light is there when you need it, but you're not like seeing kind of like bright, stingy bulbs and LEDs. Like, everything's a little bit, softer and more inviting. And just more intuitive experiences with technology, where, it also like falls back and disappears when it's not in use, so it's kind of the norm now to have these like dead front displays where all the controls are only there when you need them, and they hide. I think in the past, we used to think of technology as screens and buttons and like flashing lights and annoying beeping sounds and everything. And, I really love visions of the future where, it's completely hidden and out of sight, and exploring different methods of feedback beyond, the obvious. And so we see a lot of big tech companies exploring with that. What are other ways to communicate to the user that this product has heard you or is working without, kind of creating kind of like an anxiety like around the thing, like a flashing bright ugly screen, or like an annoying sound. Like, what are more gentle ways to preserve calm or create calm through the way that we interact. So, truly elevating the user experience in a way that a mechanical solution could not. So yeah, it's really exciting.
That's a good point.
And again, Jessie, I love just adding to that. You're hitting the nail on the head across the board when it comes to technology. So as far as the future, again, in both kitchen and bath, and I think really whole home, right? We're really starting to see a lot of that whole home infiltration. And I think, as Jessie had mentioned, for us, our whole goal is to create technology that people don't notice, right? It's not an interference, it's not a hindrance. It's there to make something or product or an interaction with a product easier without anybody feeling overwhelmed or the anxiety of, right? When we think about, bidet technology, right? Another technology on the toilet side that became an extreme forefront during COVID. I always make the joke, it's funny how, people couldn't get access to toilet paper and suddenly bidets became very, very important, right? So, necessity is the mother of all evil is the term I think that's out there. So, that really just enhanced the category that was existing. And a lot of the manufacturers took that time to run with it, create new technology, but those are all interactive pieces within a bath space. So like Moen and their touchless technology, or the ability to, as Jessie had mentioned, tell your shower to turn on at a certain temperature. The fact that you can interact with the toilet today without touching a flush button, and it can do all the things for you while using less water, while using less paper. So it's again, a technology that's there that we try our hardest to just get people to interact with it with minimal assistance needed, without, as you mentioned, these, buttons everywhere. And what do I press? And what's this? And things make noise. So I think everybody's moving towards that. And you see it again on the appliance side, where they'll have, digital panels that disappear and they just kind of integrate themselves back into the device, or, a panel will pop up momentarily and go back down and be hidden. So we're going to see all of that really get tied into this whole home automation system. I think our entire homes at one point will be interactive. Call it a Jetson-like. They were ahead of their time when they designed that cartoon where you walked in and you just spoke to your house, and we're going to see that. I think people are going to be, and you can today, right? Amazon Alexa is there and integrates with a lot, and there's other companies like Crestron and with others that you have your shades are automated based on the time of day. You see that a lot in the city and buildings, and out on the East End and some of your bigger homes. Your lighting will go on and off depending if you're walking into a room. Years ago we had a switch. Today, smart technology, you're in the space, you're in the room, your lights turn on. You can tell the lights to be at a certain temperature, a certain dimness, depending on what you're doing. So that part of it, and I think that entire automation and tie-in, and as Jessie had mentioned, that ease of use and that calmness that your home will create is just something that really was spurred by all of us spending a number of years in our house at these absorbent amount of time. Everyone was home, and you're looking at the space. I'm sure, like Moen and every manufacturer during that time, we've experienced some of our greatest years in overall product consumption and volume of sale. And that was triggered by just someone constantly being in the space and you becoming much more aware of its inefficiencies, right? I think really that's what happened. Was we spent so much innate time in our personal space without going out to the office, and just coming home, eating dinner with the kids, and taking a shower and going to bed. It was, you're there 24 hours a day, and you realize that, hey, my kitchen doesn't operate so efficiently, or my appliances take longer to cook something, or my bathroom just isn't as clean as I'd like it to be, or my shower head just doesn't operate properly. And it elevated everybody's thought into their space, and how do they change it and make it more conducive and easier to use. So certain things happen in life that I think breed much more technology and experience, and the ability for people to think outside the box when it comes to creating products. So there's a lot of good that comes out of situations, and you rise past it. But I believe that technology, from manufacturing to both interaction and home automation, is going to be, the next big wave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been exciting to watch manufacturers like both of you and many others, meet the need, and just, no hesitation, and just hear that customer need and what we want in our homes. And, there's more offerings on the market than you can even comprehend to meet those needs. Sure. So yeah, and it's exciting to see the technology sort of be incognito, like you both mentioned. The last thing that we need is more screen time. So to have technology that's mindless is awesome. So. Well, I really appreciate you both. That was fantastic, really getting down in kind of the details of design and trends. So I appreciate both your expertise and time talking to us.
Thank you, Natalie. Appreciate it. And Jessie, pleasure working with you and being on this podcast today with you as well.
Likewise, it was amazing to hear your insights, and I'm so happy that we're so well aligned.